I've transmigrated into a book, becoming a playboy from a wealthy family, a bona fide villain. As a villain, I knew the golden rule, don't mess with the protagonist, so I decided to lie low, keep my head down, and just survive. Until one day, my father told me he was going to introduce me to a virtuous wife. Without a second thought, I said, Great, I accept. What's my fiance's name? Victoria Vance. Huh? Since when is she a virtuous wife? Chapter 01. The villain I transmigrated into was named Sincere Hawthorne, the youngest and most doted-on son of the Hawthorne family. This, of course, led to the original Sincere becoming an arrogant, condescending jerk who inevitably provoked the novel's extraordinarily powerful protagonist Ethan Drake. That's right, a classic protagonist name. You could tell just by hearing it that he was bad news. After a series of reckless provocations, the original Sincere ended up as nothing more than a stepping stone for the protagonist. Having transmigrated, I was keenly aware of the stakes. I resolved to work hard and act rationally. Young master, your eldest brother is asking you to go out for drinks. Not going, young master, one of your subordinates is in trouble. Not my problem, young master, your father says he's found you a fiancée. Don't want her, wait, what did you say? In the villa's living room, my father spoke with heartfelt gravity. Sincere, you're not getting any younger. It's time to find a good girl. Of course. Before I transmigrated, I was just a loser. After transmigrating, I realized I was an even bigger loser, the kind the protagonist would kick to death like a stray dog on the side of the road. I lived in constant fear, my only thought being how to prolong my life. Seeing how sensible I was, my father smiled with satisfaction. Victoria, you can come in. A woman walked into the living room. She had willow leaf eyes and gracefully curved brows. Her curvaceous figure, complete with a pair of long legs, was utterly captivating. She extended a hand and smiled faintly. Hello, my name is Victoria Vance. My smile froze instantly, and a ding echoed in my mind. Congratulations, host, for binding with the insight system. Before I could react, a panel materialized in front of Victoria. Victoria Vance's title, The Queen of Heartbreakers, related attributes, childhood sweethearts, 75. Unforgettable first loves, 46. Boyfriends, 201. Ambition, 91/100. Noticing that I had been staring blankly for a while, my father asked curiously, What's wrong, Sincere? Nothing. I was just spacing out. I was cursing internally. Why did it have to be the Empress of Deceit? Wasn't this just asking to be cuckolded, and probably by more than one person? After scanning the Empress of Deceit's panel, I couldn't help but marvel. She truly lives up to her title. According to the fragmented memories I had of the plot, I was a villain destined to be written off within a dozen chapters. The protagonist hadn't even made his appearance yet, but the Empress of Deceit already had such an impressive track record. I made a snap decision and said immediately, Dad, I'm still young. A person's life is finite, and I wish to dedicate my limited energy to the infinite pursuit of my career and education. Please forgive me, but I cannot agree to this marriage. As soon as I said it, my father's face fell, and he shot me a harsh glare. It seemed he had never expected a good-for-nothing rich kid like me to utter such righteous words. Victoria is the daughter of the Vance Group. This marriage was arranged by both our families. You don't get a say in refusing it. No way beside us. Victoria watched with a half-smile, a hint of seduction in her eyes. It dawned on me. This marriage was a strategic alliance between two powerful families, and as the most useless son, I was naturally the perfect candidate. I had no room to interject in the conversation that followed. It wasn't until Victoria had left that my father turned to me and scolded, We really spoiled you rotten. How dare you cause trouble at such a crucial time? You're getting married, and that's final. Though I was filled with despair, I could only obey for now. Damn it, if only it were any other fiancé. Chapter 02. The wedding was just a few days away. During that time, I devoted myself to studying my insight system. I pulled up the butler's panel, Alfred Hughes' title, unflinchingly loyal related attributes, service, 99, loyalty, 100, recognition, 41/100. Everyone had a different title, with related attributes listed below it. The last attribute seemed to represent something important to that person. Seeing Alfred's recognition was only at 40, I thought hard and suddenly remembered that while Alfred had dedicated his life to serving the Hawthorne family, He had rarely received much in return. So, what's most important to Alfred is recognition. I made some inquiries and learned that Alfred had a son who had been sick since childhood, requiring exorbitant medical fees. Alfred's meager salary was nowhere near enough to cover it. That night, I secretly transferred the money for the medical expenses into Alfred's account. The next day, Alfred suddenly approached me. "Young master, that Victoria Vance is no virtuous wife. If this marriage goes through, the rest of your life will be ruined." There was a new depth of loyalty in his eyes, and I could tell his words came from genuine concern for me. I opened his panel. Recognition, 101/100ths. It seemed Alfred knew I was the one who sent the money. This was what they meant by generosity wins loyalty. "It's fine, Alfred, I'll take it one step at a time." Suddenly, a message popped up on my phone. It was from Victoria. "I miss you, can you come keep me company?" I cursed her under my breath, but knew I had no choice. As I got into the car, my new habit was to open the system panel for everyone I saw. To my shock, the panel for the young-looking driver suddenly popped into view. Driver title, child of fortune-related attributes. Fortune, infinite. Power, infinite. Harem, 0, infinite. After reading it, I froze completely. A terrible premonition washed over me. I whispered to the butler, "Alfred, who is this driver? I don't think I've seen him before." "Oh, young master, his name is Ethan Drake. Remember when I mentioned one of your subordinates got into trouble? You said at the time that it wasn't your problem." I was a bit dazed. What did that have to do with me? Wait, what's his name? Ethan Drake. It was like a bolt from the blue. I couldn't believe the infamous Ethan Drake was hiding right under my nose. No wonder his title was Child of Fortune. A protagonist like him could usually kill someone with a single punch. In the book, he ran roughshod over everyone, beating up anyone who annoyed him, and collecting a harem of 3,000 women. "Young master, you have no idea." This driver may be young, but his skills are extraordinary. It took a lot of convincing to get him to work for us as a driver and bodyguard. I remained silent, wanting to scream at Alfred, "We have a traitor, a mole in our midst. How could you place such a dangerous person right next to me?" Today, Ethan Drake was earning money as my family's driver and bodyguard. Tomorrow, he would be bankrupting my family and taking it all for himself. When that happened, no one, young or old, would be spared. Go home. "I'm not going." Chapter 03. On the day of the wedding, I walked down the aisle with Victoria on my arm. The audience was filled with business elites from all sectors. It was a grand affair. But it was precisely this kind of grand affair that gave the protagonist the perfect stage to show off. Cold sweat dripped down my back. On one hand, I knew that today was the day Ethan Drake would make his grand, show-stopping debut. It was highly likely that in a few moments I, Sincere Hawthorne, would be beaten into sincere pulp. On the other hand, this bitch Victoria was digging her nails into my arm. She was still holding a grudge, because I had refused to see her a few days ago. It was as if she couldn't stand it. If the entire world of men didn't revolve around her, Victoria looked stunningly beautiful in her white wedding dress and light makeup. But when I opened her panel, boyfriends, 203, ambition, 99/100ths. Holy crap, she managed to get 2 more in just a couple of days. If I married her, I'd have been cuckolded more times than I've eaten meals, and her ambition had risen too. It seemed Victoria's ambition was tied to the Hawthorne-Vance alliance, and whatever she planned to gain from it. "To the happy couple, may you have 100 years of happiness," the officiant said. "Victoria Vance, do you take Sincere Hawthorne to be your husband, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse?" I knelt on one knee, holding the ring, my face a stoic mask as I stared at the beautiful empress of deceit before me. Victoria covered her mouth with her hands, tears welling in her eyes. Her voice choked with emotion as she sobbed. I do." The crowd erupted in thunderous applause and cheers as if they had just witnessed an epic love story. In the audience, Marcus Vance was also wiping away tears. He turned to my father and said emotionally, "What a moving love story. Your Sincere is such a good kid. I'm sure Victoria will be very happy with him." My father managed an awkward smile. He had no idea what I had done to make Victoria so devoted. Only I, standing on the stage, was cursing in my heart. She really is the ultimate two-faced, scheming bitch. "How venomous after I placed the ring on her finger?" the officiant asked in the same tone. "Sincere Hawthorne, do you take Victoria Vance to be your wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse. Before I could answer, a loud voice boomed from the audience. I object. Looking out at the crowd, I felt a wave of relief. Who just said what I was thinking? Bang! Marcus Vance slammed his hand on the table and shot to his feet. Who has a death wish? Who dares to speak such nonsense at my daughter's wedding? A figure leaped nimbly onto the stage with effortless grace. I took a closer look. It was Ethan Drake. There was no mistaking him, the youthful face, the overbearing aura that seemed to come from nowhere, and the overwhelming sense of someone about to show off. It made you want to rush up, take a swing, and offer him a free kill and some EXP. The great Vance Group. Do you really have to stoop to selling your own daughter in a marriage alliance to achieve your goals? Isn't that utterly shameless? Victoria, don't be afraid. If worse comes to worst, we'll fight them to the bitter end. I, Ethan Drake, will risk my life today to rescue you from this filthy business transaction, the classic protagonist move. First find an excuse, then show off. I didn't want to interrupt Ethan's taunting spree. After all, this was Victoria we were talking about. I'd be thrilled if he took her away. I glanced at Victoria. She seemed lost in memories. No doubt the protagonist's harem-gathering ability was kicking in, and even the Empress of Deceit was wavering. Ambition, 98/100ths. Chapter 04. Security, get this arrogant punk out of here. Marcus Vance's face was beet red. Indeed, with all these business elites watching, Ethan's public denunciation was a massive slap in the face. And this was a wedding, for crying out loud. People crash executions, not weddings to steal the bride, although, since the bride was the Empress of Deceit, Victoria Vance, I was actually hoping he would succeed. Let Ethan and his future harem manage this particular green pasture. Suddenly, several muscular bodyguards appeared, creating a stark contrast with the seemingly frail Ethan. But I knew in my heart they were just trash teammates, sent to feed him kills and experience points. No, don't you dare lay a hand on him. Fighting is wrong. The bodyguards were taken aback by my intervention. Mr. Hawthorne, you truly are a man of great magnanimity. Even after this punk has humiliated you so thoroughly, you remain so forgiving. Then their resolve hardened. Mr. Hawthorne, we know this kid must have some skills to come here alone. You're trying to stop us because you're worried we'll get hurt. For your kindness, we'd charge through fire and brimstone. Let's go, boys. I wore a pained expression, but inside I was screaming, you bunch of idiots, if you all go and feed him XP and kills. What am I, a guy who can't even trust a chicken, supposed to do? I'm screwed seeing my attempts to stop them, Ethan sneered. You good-for-nothing rich kid. Who knows how many disgusting things you've done behind the scenes. Stop pretending to be a good person. The taunt worked perfectly. Hearing this, my family's butler and loyal subordinates all fell for it. After all, they knew better than anyone what kind of person I was. Alfred retorted angrily. You bastard, my young master may be lazy, unaccomplished, and uneducated, but he has never done anything malicious. He's a kind-hearted kid. Ethan Drake, you've gone too far. Hearing that, I was momentarily stunned. Is he praising me or insulting me? The scene devolved into chaos. A crowd of people were clamoring to take Ethan down, but I stood firmly in their way, stopping them from feeding him kills. Ethan watched this unfold, his fists itching for a fight. For some reason, he felt a strange sense of unease. According to the usual script, by now Ethan should have already unleashed his protagonist halo, punching his way through everyone, kicking down the powerful, and watching his KDA and EXP soar. But for some reason, this villain wasn't following the script. His refusal to come forward and be a stepping stone was making Ethan extremely anxious. This was a classic case of protagonist show-off syndrome. If he went too long without showing off, he felt empty inside, his fists tingling. At one of the tables, Marcus Vance saw me trying to mediate and remarked wryly, That Sincere is a good-natured boy, which is rare, but he's too soft. I'm afraid he'll be easily taken advantage of. My father heard this but didn't reply. He understood it was a backhanded comment about his son being a coward, but as he watched me, a new thought took root in his mind. I always thought my youngest son was a useless spendthrift who never left the house or socialized, but seeing him today, he's so steady, and he has such a deep rapport with his people. It seems he's been hiding his true depths all this time. Chapter 05. The standoff continued. Ethan kept trying to provoke a reaction, but he wasn't getting much of a response. It's all Sincere Hawthorne's fault. Why is he pretending to be a good guy? Seeing his efforts fall flat, Ethan turned his attention to the stunning Victoria Vance. Victoria, have you forgotten the days we spent together? Are you really going to let yourself be trapped by business interests and become a puppet? Hearing this, I snickered to myself, settling in to watch the drama unfold like a spectator munching on popcorn. This is great. If Ethan can get the Empress of Deceit into his harem, I won't have to suffer her backstabbing for the rest of my life. If I actually married Victoria, when our children were born, I wouldn't even know who the father was. My head would be a green pasture vast enough to film 1,000 seasons of a children's cartoon. I'd be the ultimate cuckold, left alone at home while she had her fun. The thought alone was terrifying. No, I refuse. Sincere and I are truly in love. Ethan, don't bring up our past. What's over is over. There's no point in dredging it up. Victoria's words were resolute. She rushed over to grab my arm, tears streaming down her face, looking so pitiful that it would make anyone want to protect her. It didn't work on me, though. As the saying goes, don't let down a good girl, and don't waste a bad one. But Victoria had transcended the definition of a bad girl. A love mired in physical beauty would end with a death certificate before a divorce decree. Cold sweat ran down my back as I cursed inwardly. This scheming bitch is terrifying, and Victoria's panel confirmed everything. Ambition, 99 100ths. As expected, the power of the Empress of Deceit could even overwhelm the protagonist's halo. Suddenly it hit me. She's planning to stick with me. Crap, my family's fortune is in danger in this day and age. A divorce meant she'd get half. Without a doubt, the Empress of Deceit was after something. Ethan was dumbfounded. What was going on? As the child of fortune with a protagonist halo, shouldn't building a harem be a piece of cake for him? Victoria, why are you saying these things? Have you forgotten our past when we were so in love? You're not the Victoria I knew. Ethan's gaze suddenly fell on me. I get it. It was you're the bastard who brainwashed her, huh? How did the blame shift to me? I shot a look at Victoria, cursing her 1,000 times in my head. She just glared back and gave my side a vicious pinch. Perhaps Ethan, the harem-building child of fortune, had never imagined that he too could fall victim to a manipulative schemer. Rage flared in Ethan's eyes. He stared at me as if he wanted to tear me to pieces. His predatory gaze made my skin crawl. I knew that in the protagonist's world, the protagonist's halo was the ultimate rule. If Ethan wanted to, he could beat me to a pulp right here, right now, and walk away without any consequences. The law? That wasn't something a child of fortune had to consider. Some powerful figure would just pop up to save him. At some point, Victoria had slipped behind me, pushing me forward. Great, she was using me as a human shield. Damn you, you scheming bitch. Suddenly, a plan formed in my mind. Feigning anger, I turned and glared at Victoria. Who exactly is this Ethan Drake to you? My sudden move startled Victoria, leaving her speechless for a moment. Then I turned to Ethan and boomed, "All right, Ethan Drake, you've got guts. I admire your spirit. In that case, I willingly withdraw from this marriage. Victoria shouldn't be a puppet of matrimony. She should follow love and freedom. I respect the history between you two." Perhaps I was just a passerby in her life. As I finished, tears were streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from pure joy. Chapter 06. Huh? The entire wedding hall, including Ethan Drake, was stunned. Was he really just handing over the daughter of the mighty Vance group so casually? Marcus Vance's face was a mottled mess of purple and green. He stood with his arms crossed, staring daggers at me on the stage. Someone was treating his precious daughter as if she were nothing. It was as if Victoria Vance was some cheap, worthless object to be summoned and dismissed at will. Victoria's face was burning. Puffed up with anger, she pinched my side again. Her already alluring lips looked even redder. "What do you mean by that?" I waved a hand dismissively. "Nothing, just respecting a woman's wishes. But I never said I didn't want to marry you." I didn't answer her, just smiled without saying a word. Seeing my nonchalant attitude, Victoria seemed to have a guess. Could it be? Does he know about my affairs? Impossible. She then leaned close to my ear, her posture deliberately intimate, and took my hand, whispering softly, "Sincere, I just made a mistake that anyone could make. Please, give me one more chance. I promise I'll be good to you from now on." I stared at her, my eyes cold as ice. Anyone could say those words, but you, Victoria Vance, had no right. If love was a perfect piece of jade, then deceit was a crack that made it impossible for it to ever be whole again. Besides, with Victoria, there wasn't even a foundation of love to begin with. Ethan, on the other hand, broke into a smile. His main goal today was Victoria. Even if he hadn't gotten to show off properly, winning her over was enough. "Victoria, let's go. I promise I'll treat you well. You give me your vow, and I shall answer in kind with that." He struck a bizarre, cringy pose. I shot him a disdainful look, my eyes filled with contempt, and immediately turned to leave this place of drama. Seeing me leave without a moment's hesitation, Victoria began to panic. Sincere, come back, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have hidden things from you. I'm sorry, I was wrong." Victoria tried to grab me, to hold me back, but I was resolute. She stumbled and fell to the ground. Ethan rushed over like a simp to help her up, but Victoria paid him no mind. At this point, Ethan had no immense power or wealth. Right now, Ethan was just an unknown bona fide loser. Victoria had wanted to marry into the Hawthorne family for its power and influence. Ethan Drake was not yet someone who could sit at the main table with the big shots. Victoria's eyes were red from crying. She knew in her heart that it was over between us. Her connection to the great and powerful Hawthorne family was severed. Chapter 07. Alfred followed me back to the villa, his voice laced with worry. "Young master, are you sure this is all right? I know you don't want to waste your youth on a woman like her, but I'm afraid the Vance group will be very difficult to deal with." He was right. Although Ethan would take most of the blame for today's fiasco, my on-the-spot annulment was a huge slap in the face to the Vance group. There was no way to spin that positively. I lay on my king-sized bed thinking for a long time. Alfred came in quietly. "Mr. Sincere, your father is back." I sat down slowly in the living room. Besides my father, my eldest brother, Charles Hawthorne, was also there. Seeing me, Charles immediately started teasing. "Well, look at Sincere, all grown up. I really saw something today. Seriously though, kid. How could you turn down a wife that beautiful?" My eldest brother, Charles, was a workaholic, but his abilities were average. My father had placed him in a senior executive position in the company's administration department, but his performance had always been mediocre. Charles had never met a master manipulator like Victoria, so he couldn't understand what a terrifying woman she was. Curious, I casually opened my brother's panel. Charles Hawthorne title, Coaster perfect work ratings 0, mediocre work rating 0, average work ratings 1,306, value 0 first. He really is a coaster value? I don't get it. What kind of value? My father cut off our banter with a stern voice. "Ahem, can you two act your age? Sincere, what exactly is your plan regarding today's events?" My father's burning gaze fell on me, his eyes filled with a mixture of expectation and confusion. All this time I had seen myself as a minor villain, a small pebble on the protagonist's path to world domination. I was always running from my so-called predetermined fate, just trying to survive day by day. But I refused to marry a notorious scheming bitch, and I refused to be a stepping stone for someone else. I want to be the protagonist of my own story. I shot to my feet, my voice ringing out. Everyone looked at me, the family's youngest screw-up, with newfound respect. "Ha ha ha, good, to be yourself. But that's the hardest thing to do." Thump. My father lightly tapped my forehead and then slowly left the villa. "You can't always just think about yourself. Also, starting tomorrow, you'll go to work with Charles. For a father, there's nothing more difficult than watching your children grow up. Today's events had shown Richard Hawthorne a new Sincere. The company needed an heir, and that heir needed to be tempered. Meanwhile, over at the Vance household, Ethan Drake had used his silver tongue to successfully win over both Victoria and her father. The senior management of the Vance Group gained a new name, Ethan Drake. Chapter 08. Inside the Hawthorne Group. "Huh? Sincere Hawthorne? Little brother, what are you doing here? Are you taking over my job?" The speaker was my second brother, Damien Hawthorne. The dark circles under his eyes were so pronounced he looked like a panda. Compared to my eldest brother, he was far more capable, a fact that was clear from his panel. Damien Hawthorne title, core member, work competence, 100. Work results, 100. Vacation days, 2/7. No, father just gave me a job here. Damien grunted listlessly. Then, as if remembering something, he turned and asked, "Weren't you getting married? What are you doing here?" "It's nothing." I called it off. My tone was flat, as if I were talking about something trivial. Damien's reaction was muted, which was typical of his personality. He never seemed interested in anything. As we were chatting, a junior employee rushed in. "This is bad, Big D, we have a problem." The Vance Group just hijacked the land development project we just won the bid for. The Hawthorne family had made its fortune in real estate. To this day, even though we had diversified into many related industries and subsidiaries, real estate remained our core business. According to the company's long-term goals, losing a project as large as a land development deal at this critical juncture would be a massive blow to our short-term cash flow. Damien and I immediately contacted the staff from the bidding committee. Why? The Hawthorne Group had already won this project. Why would you go back on your word and give the land to the Vance Group at the last minute? But the response we received was shocking. We've had an internal policy adjustment. This project can't always belong to the Hawthorne Group, can it? Before we could deal with one problem, another arose. Ethan Drake suddenly arrived at the Hawthorne Group, with Victoria Vance on his arm. Victoria looked at me with pure disdain. I casually checked her panel. Boyfriends, 204. Ambition, 100/100ths. I understood instantly. Ethan Drake, the child of fortune, had finally conquered the Empress of Deceit. The only thing that puzzled me was that Ethan's panel still read, Harem 0 Infinite. A cold smile touched my lips. I asked irritably, "What are you doing here?" I had already suspected that only someone with a protagonist's halo like Ethan could pull off snatching a project that had already been awarded. Ethan wore a Vance Group employee badge, a sly, terrible smile on his face. That bidding project is pretty important to you guys, right? Although the Vance Group has it now, I might consider giving it to you. My eldest brother, Charles, had also received the news and rushed to the office. As the head of administration, he was involved in nearly all of the company's major decisions. After some negotiation, I understood Ethan's plan. He wanted us to buy the land back from him at twice the winning bid price. It was pure extortion. At the negotiating table, Charles's brow was furrowed, and he was sweating profusely. It was an incredibly difficult decision. Either swallow this bitter pill or lose a massive project. Ethan leaned against the table, watching my brother squirm like an ant on a hot pan. He looked like he had the situation completely under control, a cunning smile on his face. I moved over to my brother's side. "Charles, what are you thinking?" As I expected, Charles's instinct was to get the land back, even at a loss, just to keep the company running smoothly. I leaned in and whispered my idea in his ear. Ethan said impatiently, "So, what's your decision? This is a one-time offer for this land." Charles took a deep breath and put on a relaxed expression. "Apologies, but our company has had a policy adjustment. We no longer want this land. This allows us to cut our losses in time, so thank you for that. After all, this project can't always belong to the Hawthorne Group." Chapter 09. Inside the Vance Group, a sharp rebuke came through the phone. "What? That plot of land, you didn't sell it back to the Hawthorne Group at a high price?" The person on the phone was undoubtedly Ethan's powerful connection from the bidding committee. Ethan's face was dark. He never imagined that the Hawthorne Group would actually let go of the land. Ethan's plan had been to use his friend's influence to secure the land first, then sell it back to the Hawthornes at a premium and pocket the difference. Since the project would ultimately end up with the Hawthornes anyway, his connection wouldn't be discovered or held accountable. It was a flawless plan to get something for nothing. The only flaw was that they never ever considered that the Hawthornes would actually refuse the deal. "Ethan Drake, I don't care how you do it, but you have to sell that land back to the Hawthornes, even at a loss. If I go down for this, you're coming with me." Meanwhile, the executives at the Hawthorne Group were in an uproar. "Mr. Hawthorne, your decisions have always been so conservative. Why were you so reckless this time? This land is too important. How could you just give it up?" The meeting ended on a sour note, with almost everyone opposing the decision. Charles let out a breath and looked at me. "My decisions for the company have always followed the principle of seeking not for merit but for no fault. I'm always so worried about this and that, but the results are always just mediocre." As the eldest brother, he carried more responsibility, which made him more afraid of making mistakes. As a result, no matter what he did, his performance was always just average. The next day, I took over Damien's work. My second brother was ecstatic, and his panel changed to vacation days, 7/7. "Hello? This is the Hawthorne Group. It seems the deed for the project our company recently won the bid for has not yet been transferred to us." First, I called the bidding officials. Their response was still dismissive. Then, I immediately took a team and rushed over to demand an explanation. These people were masters of bureaucracy. Talking to them was useless. But my goal was just to get their attention and force them to find the powerful figure involved. At the same time, I had our PR department leak the news to the media without a second's hesitation. Public opinion is a powerful weapon. The Hawthorne Group had considerable influence in the city. If a company our size could be treated so unfairly, it would send a message that no business was safe from being fleeced. Reputation is the cornerstone of business. Just as I expected, over the next few days, under constant pressure from us and the media, the bidding committee sent a message saying they would handle the matter seriously. And on that day, Ethan Drake, with Victoria on his arm, came to negotiate again, but this time he wasn't nearly as relaxed. Chapter 10. The protagonist of his own story. We're not here for anything else today. We'll return this land to your company at the original price. We hope you'll accept it, Ethan said through gritted teeth. The prize he'd had in his grasp had just flown away. Charles glanced at me, then smiled. I'm sorry, but as we said last time, we no longer want this land. It would disrupt our company business plan. Ethan's face turned green, as if he'd just eaten a bitter melon. Half the winning bid price, but the negotiating table remained silent. Ethan thought it over. The biggest problem now was that a plot of land that should have belonged to the Hawthorne Group had been hijacked. If the land never returned to our hands, the blame would inevitably fall on the bidding officials and the Vance Group, which would be a massive blow to both of their reputations. To protect its own reputation, the bidding committee would surely cut ties immediately and pin all the blame on the Vance Group. Take it back, I don't ask for anything else, just please take this land off our hands. Ethan's face was flushed. It wasn't easy to grovel like this. I suddenly exploded. So you do know this land was ours to begin with, you motherfucker? In the end, Charles cheerfully signed the contract, and the land that was rightfully ours returned to our hands. The negotiating table suddenly felt empty, with only Ethan and Victoria remaining. Useless, this is all your fault, you useless piece of trash. Victoria screamed at the dejected Ethan. She never thought that this guy, who had bragged so much about his abilities, would end up so pathetically handing back the land he had acquired. More importantly, the future of the Vance Group might be ruined by this man. At that thought, Victoria lunged at him with her nails, enraging Ethan. You scheming bitch, what right do you have to criticize me? Don't think I don't know about your sordid affairs. Lies don't hurt, but the truth is a sharp knife. Victoria bristled like an angry cat. You worthless loser, I knew you were incompetent from the start. I checked Victoria's panel one more time and smiled. I turned to Ethan with a mocking tone. Wearing the green hat, your choice, wasn't it, protagonist? After I left, the sound of their shouting grew louder. Everyone, it's on me today to celebrate our company winning the bid again. All expenses tonight are on Charles Hawthorne. Charles was beaming. For the first time, he had completed a perfect job, truly proving his value as a decision-maker. Charles Hawthorne title, a coaster with a dream, perfect work ratings, 1, value 1 first. In the following days, the company flourished, becoming the largest conglomerate in the region. The company was handed over to my two brothers, with Charles officially becoming the heir. I turned down my father's offer to take over the company. After all, I really had no management skills. I had spent the first half of my life lying too low, being too uneducated. Afterward, I traveled the world alone, seeing different landscapes and meeting all sorts of people. The world was vast and truly worth exploring, and I finally saw my own panel. Sincere Hawthorne title, the ultimate lying low villain, the protagonist of his own story, 1 first.